Good afternoon. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to the May work session. Today is Tuesday, May the 13th. Special welcome to those here with us here in the auditorium, ABSS staff, those watching us online, as well as our friends from the media. Commissioner Thompson asked that I pass along, she's at a library committee meeting, and she will be joining us in progress this afternoon. Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to approve at this time?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. This time, I will turn the floor over to Dr. Fleming for our budget update.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Good afternoon. I am going to take just a couple minutes, not long at all, to just kind of tell you where we're at on the budget process and where I hope we're headed. A couple weeks ago, the county manager released her capital improvement plan recommended budget. And in that, where we had requested $14.7 million for 25-26. Her recommended budget was just over $10 million. In fact, it was 11.4, $10 million within the capital improvement plan, 1.14 in technology. So you can see that there is a significant difference there between roof replacements, about $895,000 less on roof replacements, which we have kind of tagged, I believe, as about half or so of Southern Middle. So one of you get to pick which half gets the roof replacement, which doesn't. That's my only joke today. The other item missing off of the capital improvement plan is under school safety and security, which concerns me. Being in an open meeting, I won't get too far into that, but I do think several of our campuses have several needs when it comes to school security, either in the door locks, the cameras, or the secure vestibules. Again, we won't get too far in open session on that, but that's disappointing as well. But I say all that, the fact that with the recommended budget, if that's what we kind of live with as far as the capital improvement plan, we're not sure of the pay-go capital, the annual capital as of yet. We're still kind of just kicking the can down the road, and we're not able to get ahead of anything. That's really not even getting ahead. We're not able to catch up on anything. So there is a concern there, but in the event that that goes through, I think it further highlights the fact that we need our full current expense request, $5.7 million. And one thing that will do is will keep us whole, at least on operations, where if we need to refocus some things on capital or maintenance or whatever it may be, we're able to do that. But also, I'm very concerned if we don't receive the $5.7 million, or if there's ever a cut or anything like that, we will lose our low wealth funding. Already we know we're losing $5 million, and you don't have a whole lot more to lose after that. So I already know one county, I believe Johnston County, is going off of low wealth this year. And so we're kind of right there behind them. And again, the low wealth allotment, and I think this is the part that I really want to drive home, is the low wealth allotment are for counties that don't have the tax base, they're not able to keep up. If we go by the formula, what that says is that Alamance County is becoming more wealthier every year, or more wealthy every year. But in order for that formula to work for us, that means that the county allotment to the schools has to increase as the tax base increases. That's how the formula is built. So, it'd be easy to say, well, we need to go fix the formula and have the state fill in the difference, which that would be great. But what they're going to say back is, well, no, the formula is built that as the county grows in tax revenue, the school district grows in their allotment, and I'm concerned that may not happen. So I just want to let the board know and the public know that right now our focus would be on our typical capital that we use every year, in addition to the CIP, and also our current expense expansion request, which is the 5.7 million. And so I think those are probably the 2 points that I want to drive home. One of the items, again, in the security piece, or in the, well, this could be security, it could be instruction, discipline, however you want to, classroom management, however you want to put it. But we did have Yonder, which are the phone-free school pouches. We had them present to our principals. I think it was very well received. We do not have a quote from them yet, but I will bring that forward to you at an upcoming meeting as soon as we get that quote. Not sure where that will land, but I do think that's something that we did not put in our budget request to the commissioners. We're not going to go back and ask for that, but it is something I may ask as a board for some support on as we either pilot it or full scale ramp it up, however it may be, as a new school year begins. And so real excited about that opportunity. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Happy to answer any questions. I know Mr. Messer's happy to answer any questions as well. He's just hoping there's a question. But I do appreciate the opportunity to share that update with you.
I have one quick question. Can you remind us about the $5 million that we're already losing in low wealth? Just kind of clarify that for the public.
That maybe Mr. Messer may need to go to the microphone for that one, but the $5 million we are losing now is based off of the reval of property tax. If a county attempts to stay revenue neutral, that is a huge no-no when it comes to the low wealth supplement. Again, the county may be able to do, or may be able to stay revenue neutral, but when it comes to that formula, it's about the county meeting their maintenance of effort, and it's about the school district receiving a larger allotment as property values increase. That's really what it boils down to. So if the commissioners say, or the contracted groups that are doing the reval say, okay, the property value has increased by this much, our allotment from the county has to increase that much. When you stay revenue neutral, obviously the county's not getting all of the money from that increase in property value, and then it moves, it affects us because our allotment's not increased.
Yeah, it really boils down to the effective tax rate of the county. And whenever they try to stay revenue neutral, our effective tax rate decreases. And that's when we get impacted on the low wealth side.
Any other questions from board members?
And just for this whole thing and the formula and that's based off, that's from the state. That's not like the school system or anything. That's the state who bases that information on the low wealth, correct?
That is correct. That formula is legislative driven, and all the information comes from the County Commissioners Association and all the data that flows through that organization.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Fleming. Thank you, Mr. Messer. At this time, I will welcome our interim Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Denise Morton, to the podium. And I think you have several agenda items.
Good afternoon to each of you. We do have several topics today to present to the board from curriculum, and we're going to start with the 3-year plan that has to be done for academically, intellectually gifted children in the district. So just every 3 years, each public school district must submit an up-to-date AIG plan. I'm going to use AIG if y'all don't mind. And so this is for the board's review. We need approval and signatures from the board chair and the superintendent at the next board meeting, or before the submitted to the state. So you can look at advanced learner staff currently. Angie Reed, who should have been doing this today, is on a trip. So I'm doing it for her, but she really is the coordinator for AIG for us. We have 18 elementary AIG positions who serve our 20 traditional schools. 2 teachers are split simply because the numbers are lower at those schools, at Grove Park, East Lawn, North Graham, and Newland, and then 16 teachers are full-time at the other elementary schools. For middle schools, we have 2 full-time AIG teachers. They do a number of things as they travel around those 7 middle schools to help promote rigorous learning for our AIG students. And then at the high schools, AIG certified, we have 19 teachers that are certified and 2 are pursuing licensure. So let's look at some demographics. You'll look at from ABSS and then AIG, and I will note that every spring we have to do a head count. It's much like exceptional children. We have to do a head count of our gifted children. So this spring, you can see that for Asians, we had 2%, and AIG is, our population is 18.41%. And I'll just let you look across African American, 24%, AIG, 5.25%, and American Indian for AIG is 8.16% below for the district. Hispanic, 6.49% AIG, 32% ABSS, and et cetera. So, see if you have any questions about those numbers. Okay. So here's our demographics, and this was based on looking back at the plan when it was originally done back in 2022. So this is the next 3 years. So in 2022, you can see that 11.88% of ABSS students are identified as AIG, and that's as of 23,380 right now. So in the district, we have 2656 students. So you can look across that chart there and see that in 2022 that we had some increases in some of the areas, ethnicity areas. For example, 2% in 2022 for AIG, and then for Asian, and then 3% now. 9% for African American, 10% now AIG. American Indian, we don't have enough to really report there. Hispanic, 15 to 18. AIG 2022 for multiracial, 5, and then decreased to 8. And so you can look across and see that, except for in our white or Caucasian students, every area increased in terms of identification for AIG students. Okay. Now, again, we have 2656 students identified. In terms of the elementary schools, we have 691 students, and with 18 positions. And mostly they're serving grades 1 through 5, not kindergarten, serve grades 3 through 5, highly gifted. We do a lot of nurturing. We recognize some students that need nurturing or need talent development. And then we collaborate, co-teach, and co-plan with classroom teachers. So in the middle schools, we have the 2 teachers. There are 806 students identified as AIG. So those 2 teachers really have to move from school to school, providing them with a variety of services. They serve grades 6 through 8, highly gifted. They do a lot of collaboration and co-teaching, and students are mainly served through advanced ELA and math courses, or English language arts. And in the high school, we have a number of ways that students are identified as gifted. We have 1,159 students there. So they're served through things like honors, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, dual enrollment with ACC or others. And the AIG coordinator works directly with the high school counselors regarding credit for demonstrated mastery. That's what that CDM stands for, if you didn't understand that acronym, and governor's school. Any questions on that? Okay. So again, every 3 years, we must revise our local AIG plan, and that's what I'm bringing to you today in terms of what we would like the board to understand about our AIG programs and get permission to submit that to the state. One of the things you have to do every 3 years is you have to reach out to your stakeholders and find out how our AIG programs are doing. So this year we surveyed school administrators. We had 23 responses. We talked to our classroom teachers. We had 25 responses there, and we asked the students how they feel about their AIG programming. So we have 47 responses there, and of course our parents, we had 309 responses. Okay? And then here's just some highlights. For the overall, has your participation in the AIG program been a good experience? And out of 47, the majority of them were yes. And have you enjoyed or benefited? And they said yes. That was the majority of the responses. So in 2022-23, They met virtually to review the plan and fidelity of implementation across the district. So we hosted a parent AIG advisory meeting to discuss how to best support our students. In 23-24, and remember some of this was during the pandemic, during COVID, we had a family university in October of 2023 to talk about what we do for our gifted students. And then in 24-25 school year, we had another family university where we posted a parent advisory meeting, et cetera. So a number of things to make sure that all the stakeholders are aware that what's going on with our programming. There are currently 20 members on the AIG Parent Advisory Committee. And each month, the curriculum department, et cetera, others, would receive a Google document they could edit as questions and make comments and suggestions on to give current feedback. Now, here are some changes that I want to walk through with you. In the current plan, our plan only addresses AIG pullout and AIG co-teaching. So we're moving to a tiering of services, much like if you've heard the multi-tiered systems of support for students who struggle with learning. This is going to be a tiered response for students who are gifted. So tier 1 would be consultative. That would be the students in the classroom that could receive consultative services. They show a need for differentiation in the classroom. Then in tier 2, you have students that show a need beyond the regular classroom. Teacher provides instruction through resource class. That means they're pulling them out, or co-teaching where they're pushing in. So, and then tier 3 is accelerated services for those students who meet criteria for whole grade or course skipping, are really highly gifted children. So the justification is all identified students will receive tier 1 regardless. They're going to receive that with differentiation. Tier 2 would be a more flexible grouping of students, and for 3 is more in line with what the language of DPI is using right now, and Infinite Campus. Now, I'm going to draw your attention over to the justification because we have, it talks about intellectually gifted pathway. The difference in these students is that they are a different type of student. They're identified as gifted, but they also have a disability. They're twice exceptional. So that means they could be exceptional children, autistic, English as language learners. So they often do not need to be pulled from core instruction because they need that core instruction because they have another disability that's happening. Then students who are served through tier 1 consultative services will receive differentiated instruction in the classroom, but will not necessarily be pulled. In other words, you've got the AIG teachers are working with classroom teachers to really develop differentiated classroom lesson plans. And just looking back over here, because it says intellectually gifted pathway, again, for the students that they're gifted and they have a disability, they have to have these types of scores, 97 plus on verbal or nonverbal composite for reading and AIG reading for students, etc. Okay. Now, some things to enhance our program. Currently in the 2nd grade, we give a universal screener, which we would call an IQ test, okay? It's called an Naglieri, and they take it in the spring of 2nd grade. And this has helped us identify more Hispanic and African American students. And you can see the K2 identification criteria there, where they have to have on the Iowa Achievement Test, and COGAT is the Cognitive Abilities Test, or the Naglieri. We give the Naglieri. So we want to continue to give that 2nd grade spring test, but also we're going to, instead of testing students in the fall of 3rd grade, what the teachers recommended is that we move that to the end of the 3rd grade to give those students more time to mature, understand the types of assessments that are being given, and they would be able to collect beginning of the year and middle of the year data to see student growth and potential. And elementary principals agree with this move, and I agree with it too. I think they need to be a little bit older before they're really assessed there. And you can just see the criteria that they need. We're also going to do a portfolio for students. Sometimes you have to have more things than just a test score, right? You have to have examples of their work, examples of their creativity, etc., gifted rating scales. So we need to look at those types of things. And the bottom box there to allow students who show potential, and that's what that portfolio is about, to show potential. I came through when these students were identified with a 98-point cutoff. It was 2 things. It was achievement and IQ. I think the powers that be recognize you need to look at so many more different types of things for students in order for them to be identified as gifted. So that's why they do the portfolio now. They don't rely on standardized data and test scores. Okay? And we're going to continue to have intentional communication with parents and guardians. Elementary to middle and middle to high, particularly, I'm a big believer in transition practices. When you have a fifth grader going to the sixth grade, the middle school teachers need to understand the students they're getting, and of course, eighth to ninth. We're going to develop an AIG student advisory board, not parent, but we're going to ask the students to serve in an advisory board. We really need to work on our middle schools. With 2 teachers serving 7 schools, we want to create more opportunities for our middle school students to explore interests. And we're going to create academic showcases, extracurricular activities for them to do that. And create and implementing middle school advanced English language arts and advanced math task for current standards. And feel free to contact Angie Reed if you have any questions. What can I answer for you?
Questions for Ms. Morton or Dr. Morton? Yes, Mr. Rogers.
So thank you for the presentation, Ms. Morton. Just looking over the whole thing, I mean, I appreciate the holistic development of the plan going forward. Also, the tiers, I
Yes.
think is great also because of the fact from the different breakout of the consulting, the resources, the acceleration to allow for that instead of it just and one thing fit all
Right.
type of process and everything. And so one of the things I do have a question about is around, I had to type it up,
Okay.
is the parent engagement piece. Because from even looking at some of the numbers, you know, from the surveys and then even with some of the students, we see that there is versus how many students we have versus how many responses that we're getting. Even reading the little note in there, I think about the advisory committee right now where it's 20 members, but a lot of time the attendance, I think it said a lot of the attendance was only 5. So, so I think there's a real need in that piece. Possibly through that student advisory might get more parents engaged, but is there any other means that we're thinking about trying to get that engagement from our parents?
Well, I can't speak for Angie, but I know that they're going to do every effort. They're going to try every effort to get more parents to meetings. It was a poor response, and especially for students that are considered gifted. So I know that I can't tell you right now what those means may be, but I can report back to the board on that. But I agree with you. I think there needs to be a better response to get our parents in. And I hope the AIG student piece will help too.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that piece helps too, because I mean the parent engagement, parents that are engaged in their kids' education keeps them kids engaged in their
Absolutely.
education also. And then another question was around I know a lot. I guess a lot of this funding comes from the state, and it's not as much local sources. And I know we were just talking about like the local budget, so I'm not trying to say let's throw something else in that request. I'm fine with our request, but is there any means that we could possibly look at any local grants or any of our community partnerships that might be here that can provide grants to allow for us to be a little bit more innovative or I guess creative in what we're doing with our AIG program
I'd have
and
to
plan?
explore that. I mean, I know we get one pot of money to pay salaries. It's, Mr. Messer, I think it's PRC 34 that they come out of. Most of the salaries come out of that. And then we have a smaller amount for local to buy materials and supplies. But I can talk to Ms. Reed and we can explore that. That's a good idea.
Thank you, because just looking at that middle school where it's 2 teachers and is basically 1 teacher to every 403 students. So, and I know seeing those responses, a lot of the students were saying they wanted to have more of that time or more opportunity at that middle school level. So I was just wondering if there might be things to especially tackle at the middle school level
I
for
agree,
those students too.
Because we have such a robust offerings at the high school that and that's something we need to work on, is the middle school services, so thank you.
Yep. And
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
That's
Any
all
other
for me.
questions? Dr. Parker?
For the identification criteria, you had COGAT and Iowa Achievement Test. Do students still need to, or parents request testing, or is that given to everyone, like the COGAT?
You may have some parents request it, but for most part, teachers are identifying students that need to be tested. That's usually the route.
Gotcha.
But I mean, my experience and my background, yes, I've had some parents that requested it, but it's more the classroom teacher driven.
Okay, I understand. Thanks. And then the second, which is kind of a follow-up, does it seem like staffing, there are two parts to the question. Does it seem like staffing levels for AIG are okay, given the kind of services? I understand there may be an open position for middle school because those are hard to hire. But is it generally okay as far as comparing to similar districts? Do you feel like it's staffed well enough so that they can provide the services there, the students, whatever, deserve, or what? I'll just let you comment as far as.
I think at the elementary, they're well-staffed. Typically, every building has that teacher devoted to doing that, except the smaller schools. The middle schools probably could use some help. And of course, the high schools have all the different ways students can go. So it'd be middle school, I would say, that might need some attention. Yeah.
Got it. And I understand that in middle school you can do some differentiation with Spanish or Math 1 versus
Right.
8th grade math kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I just thought to
Thank
ask.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Any other questions for Dr. Morton? Ms. Harvey?
So the teacher decides, or a parent decides if they want to have their child tested. And then there's this certain kind of, I guess, across the board test, if it's elementary, middle, or high, that they take. It just, I guess it bothers me a little bit when I look at the demographics, and we see the numbers of the demographics, and we have, this high percentage in one area, and then we get to a certain percentage and it's very low. And then I go down to where it says changes to enhance the ABSS AIG program, and it says that we're offering the universal screener that has helped identify more Hispanic and African American students. But what were we offering before that we couldn't identify them at those moments?
I think it was, in the past, it has depended more on test scores, okay? Now it's much broader, and the reason it's broader is they want to identify more students, particularly in our lower represented groups. So that's one of the main reasons they've gone to a portfolio. They look at a number of different testing points or points that would identify a kid. I mean, you could see a child that was so creative in art or could do math but doesn't test well. So you want to show them that, we are recognizing that, and we are going to do some things to help identify that child. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's sort of the history of this program. It's gone from dependent on test scores to much more open to help identify more students.
No, it does. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Any other questions from board members?
I guess I'll ask one more question.
Okay.
Since I have the opportunity. So I understand the COGAT is very G-loaded as far as what it measures, and maybe Iowa Achievement Test is a little bit more knowledge-based. And if you're looking for an IQ test, or what, I guess the question is why you have two tests rather than just a simple IQ test like a COGAT seems to be.
Are you talking about the Iowa?
Yes.
Okay, the Iowa is a student, as an achievement test. It's not an IQ test.
That was what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So it's more, so they're not both IQ tests.
No.
So one is kind of knowledge where you could, in principle, study for it, and the other is more IQ.
Right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Any other questions from board members? Thank you, Dr. Morton.
You're welcome. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk to you about is we're going to submit a remote instruction plan to the state. You might have woken up on a snowy morning here in Guilford College Guilford County is going to have a remote learning day, or Winston-Salem Forsyth. Well, we haven't utilized this since, I guess, COVID, when the kids were out so long. But this will be for really just when we're out for bad weather. It is only for information. It does not require board approval, but we have to turn it into the state by June the 30th. But certainly is something that we want to make the board aware of and provide you the information. And I would like to introduce Brittany Jackson. Raise your hand, Brittany. She's our blended learning specialist, and she has helped tremendously preparing this plan. And Dennis is going to step in at some point, right, Dennis? About, yes. So I got two helpers out here. So anyway, let's just look at this. So we can submit this plan, and we can utilize up to 5 remote instruction days. You can't do any more than that, or 30 remote instruction hours when we're not able to open. And of course, if the electricity's out, we can't really do anything. But when we have we have methods to do that, then the students are going to be able to access some ways to do remote learning, and we'll go through that in the plan. And of course, the state board has to have this by June 30th, so we're presenting it to you now. So the key sections of this are going to be resources, communication, and training, which is probably the most important. The attendance piece, how do we track and report that? Staff roles and expectations, because we're going to have to educate a lot of people for this, right? This is the first time we've done it in a long time, so we're going to have to really educate our staff and our parents and our students. We're going to have remote instruction options for limited connectivity and provisions for students with disabilities. And I'm a former special ed teacher, and I remember hearing about remote learning. That probably worried me the most, is how those students were faring, and our English as second language students, with remote instruction. Okay? So let's look at just the resources. Actually, Alamance Burlington is in really good shape for this. We use Google Meet because we're part of a Google Suite accessibility. And you can look at the learning management systems. At the elementary level, the kids use Google Classroom. At the secondary level, our students use Canvas. So they're very familiar with this. We've had this for quite some time, right? So then we have something called a Clever Portal, and this is access to any digital tool we have, and the teachers know how to go in to access this, and the students as well. And then offline resources, we'll be talking about printed materials, packets, workbooks, that type of thing. So communication with staff, there's going to have to be a number of ways we talk to our staff. Number one, we are going to do a survey with our staff about who needs hotspots, because not everybody, if a teacher's at home, they may not have access to the internet. So we're going to do a survey in the coming weeks to do that. But we'll use everything that we can think of, automated calls, email, websites, etc., to communicate with them and the families. Pretty much the same thing, our automated calls, individual phone calls, the website, text messaging. So we'll do a blast to make sure that our community knows that we're going to do this. So staff training, we'll use a variety of PD opportunities to train our staff, and it could be asynchronous, which means it's something online that they're doing, in-person sessions, resources, and virtual staff meetings. And of course, our family support, we'll probably do videos for them, a tutorial guide to help them navigate the remote learning environment. So student attendance. Okay, so it can be marked present for a remote learning day through several methods. A two-way communication with a teacher. For example, a teacher says, I'm available with email. Here's your assignment marked on a board, or like Canvas. It could be online or offline assignment. Participation in a synchronous virtual class. We probably won't start with synchronous stuff. We'll probably start with asynchronous, or signing in via a digital attendance platform. And let me say something about this for elementary students. We really are going to start with paper packets for them. Do you know why? I don't have to tell y'all, right? So all students will have 5 days to submit their work. And once they submit their work, then they're counted as present. Okay, does that make sense? And the teachers will have, well, what we're suggesting is that they'll have assigned office hours. They know that the students can be available to reach them during that time. And we will, again, remote instruction attendance protocols will work, because we're going to Infinite Campus, we'll work through this through various methods. And we'll use the student information system. And teachers and data managers will be responsible for entering that. Okay? Now, let's talk about limited connectivity. Not everybody in this county has access to the internet, right? When I was in Orange, they used to have to go park in front of the Cedar Grove Church or the library to access the internet. So anyway, we're going to talk about hotspots are provided for students lacking reliable home internet access, community, what I just mentioned, community Wi-Fi locations, and I know that Dennis or Brittany, we're going to look at where those locations might be. And of course, we'll do paper-based learning. I told one elementary principal the other day about this, and she said, well, what are the elementary students going to do? And I said, paper. She went, praise the Lord, because they just couldn't imagine trying to navigate that with their elementary students. And that'll be our first step. We might change over time, but let us start out with baby steps. And for teachers, they have the option to work on campus if they can get there. Community Wi-Fi locations and hotspots are provided for teachers needing off-site and at home. And I mentioned earlier, we're going to survey our teachers to make sure that we know who needs those hotspots. Okay? And I'm going to let Dennis talk a little bit about this now. Dennis? Slide over here.
Good afternoon. So we mentioned briefly access to internet is difficult in the county, and we've all been through COVID. We knew the experience from that as well. We will survey students. We will survey teachers to find out exactly what potential needs are if and when we go to a synchronous model, if we determine that's needed. Right now, we're estimating somewhere between 500 and 750 students potentially still do not have adequate enough internet access to do a synchronous live online class. Hotspot service has to be activated for an entire year. We can suspend the service for 6 months and save that cost. So we're estimating somewhere around $120 for a year if it was $10 a month, and then we would save, by suspending that service, $60 of that. So we really need to make sure that our survey tools are good, and we make sure that who says they need access to the internet, we provide that and we do that accurately, because this would be a full year contract that we would enter into when we decide that that's an option for us. Okay.
And now I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Questions from the board? Ms. Harvey, and then we'll go to Mr. Rogers.
I just wanted to thank you for offering the elementary students the packets.
Yay.
When COVID happened, my niece and nephew were in like kindergarten and second grade, and it was horrible. Trying to help them manage on a computer that they absolutely knew nothing about. So thank you so much for just thinking of them, because that's major.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Mr. Rogers?
Yep, similar to what Ms. Harvey said. Thank you for the paper packets. Also, just thank y'all for coming up and working on an actual remote plan. I know when we were going through this past year when the snow happened, I think I hit up Dr. Fleming a couple of times because a couple of parents and folks was like, hey, how close are we getting to having to make up days and all of that stuff? And they were like, we're seeing other districts doing remote. Could we possibly do remote? And people were like, just send home papers with the kids and everything. And I was like, hey, and so Dr. Fleming explained out that, we did not have a plan in place at the time. So good to see that an actual plan is in place right now for if we did have to go this route in any means and everything. And I guess just the question too with this is, if there is days where it's weather related or power issues or anything like that, and we do have to close school, I know this might be a question that folks are going to end up asking, is the first thing we're going to do is go to the remote plan, or is there still going to be possibly, or is this like just an option in that process for us?
Dr. Fleming?
Yeah.
I think I think what will determine that is hours left and where we're at. So I know some school districts, particularly with snow, maybe a day or two they will let it go because they've got that time built into their calendar. And so maybe the second or third day they'll go to remote, because you don't want to burn all 5 days up, because you don't know, especially before Christmas or something, because you don't know what you'll have for second semester. In situations, in all my experience, and having been through a few hurricanes, typically when it gets out to that 4 or 5 days and the area's really kind of been without power for a few days and roads and all that, in years past, the General Assembly has stepped in and forgiven some days. So I don't worry as much about that because the state has, typically if a county's been a disaster area, they'll forgive it just like they did in the western part of the state this year for the hurricane. So I think it's just going to be dependent on where we're at. If it's in, if we get hit with snow in March and we haven't used many days, we might not have to do remote learning because, we'll have time build up. This is more to help stretch out when you're getting close to needing a makeup day.
So thank you, Dr. Fleming, for that. And then just a question on what you had hit on, Dennis, with the cost piece. So after that surveying out and hoping that everybody responds back to that, we'll have a better idea on what costs would be around with those hotspot subscriptions or plans for the year.
Yeah, that's the intention, to make sure we have a planned options.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Engel?
Dennis, where is most of the, is it scattered still, or most of these kids that don't have the broadband, is it in one central location?
Life finds a way. Kids find a way to get access to the internet. It has gotten better, but still there are areas that the service is there, but the families don't have the resources to be able to afford it. And in some places, it's not there, and you need a hotspot to be mobile, to take with you to go somewhere where you can have access. Or you might have access and you need additional access, and the hotspot can provide a little bit of that for some families that maybe have a large number of students.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions? Dr. Parker?
As far as the printing, I know that the amount of paper people are allowed to use is somewhat controversial, and I didn't know if we needed to have like a set aside as far as the budget for the 5 days, or how that was being handled in case we use one in April or something and the school have run out of print quota.
I would anticipate that if we are thinking about having to print resources out, or we can use asynchronous. I mean, there is a way for us to be able to provide access offline to digital resources that get stored digitally. But I think a lot of teachers that are accustomed to doing some printing that they would send printing home, they're doing printing now. So I wouldn't estimate that it would be too much more. And I think that we can budget some in for that, but this is new territory for me.
Yeah.
Understand. Thanks.
Any other questions from board members? Thank you, Mr. Fry. Thank you, Dr. Morton. I think you're up one more time.
I think I'm up here a little bit longer. So yeah, that's just fine. So we do have some next steps, and there are a lot of next steps because Brittany Jackson and I talked this morning, and again, I want to thank her again for the legwork she's done on this plan. She has been invaluable to me. So we're going to do a survey to the teachers pretty quickly, and then we have a lot of communication. We'll be working with Emily and James on the communication piece. They're really good partners to work with, so just know that we'll be moving toward everybody understanding what's going on. Okay?
Thank you. And now we will move into field trips.
Yes. Okay. Eastern High School is seeking approval for a student field trip. They're going to take their students to London and Paris during next year's spring break. And the estimated cost is $4,489. And they list some things about monthly payment options, et cetera, for students to be able to go. And early approval will allow the school to hold an informational meeting for students and families. So that's why they're get it to the board now, so they have that whole next year to work on this. So any questions there?
Questions from board members? Mr. Rogers?
I don't have I guess it is a question, but not really a question. Is there a way for me to go back to high school? Because, I mean, like, you know what, Cummins, they was just down going through South Carolina and Atlanta and everything. they're talking about London and Paris. I think somebody else was, the places. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, these trips are great opportunities for our students, and they are incredible and exciting things for them. It just makes me be like, dang, all we did was go to Raleigh. I mean,
When I was at Cummings, we didn't go anywhere. So I just remember that very well. But anyway, that's a good point. A couple of us said we wish we could go with them as chaperones. So, okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Ms. Harvey?
So that's 4,489 per student. Okay, and what if we run into the issue of a student not being able to afford this?
I think that they have things in place to help those students. It's either through fundraising or just other ways to raise funds. They'll make sure nobody's left out. That's my understanding. That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Morton.
Yeah. So up next, Terry Drummond's going to talk about one of my favorite things is career technical education. So she's our director. So come on up, Terry.
Thank you, Mace. Right here. All right. Good afternoon, Dr. Fleming and esteemed members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this afternoon to present this overview of our career and technical education program in the Alamance-Burlington school system. In order to continue to receive funding for our local CTE programs, we must submit our CTE local application annually. This application includes our most recent comprehensive local needs assessment and self-evaluation, which was completed last school year for our 2-year cycle. Today, I am here to provide a review of our progress in our current 2-year cycle and seek your assurances and support of our efforts as we work to ensure that our programs, services, and activities continue to be offered in accordance with all state, local, and federal guidelines. Maybe? Last year, we identified 3 goals as our focus for the 2024 through 2026 improvement cycle, and we're excited about the progress we have made in several of these areas. To date, 96% of our 8th grade students have made progress on the development of their career development plans that will help them transition from middle school to high school and be used as a tool for registration as well as college and career planning. In response to our second goal, our credential attainment rate increased from 52.3% in 2022-23 to 63.5% in 23-24, and our fall 2024 credential attainment rate continued to increase to 67.08%, which is an increase of 14.78 percentage points in approximately 18 months. We are continuing to work on our third goal to increase core instruction and have a positive impact on achievement in reading, math, and science. In ABSS, we are able to employ 91 full-time CTE teachers with at least 1 teacher in every middle school and high school site, as well as the Career and Technical Education Center, Ray Street Academy, and the virtual school. We currently have teachers serving students in a variety of pathways across 13 career clusters. And in addition to teaching positions, our department employs 7 career development coordinators, 1 for each middle school, high school zone, and 5 CTE support staff. We currently offer pathways in 13 of the 16 federally recognized career clusters, including agriculture, food and natural resources, architecture and construction, arts, AV technology and communication, business management and administration, finance, health science, hospitality and tourism, human services, information technology, law, public safety, corrections and security, manufacturing, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. This year, our state and federal funding has allowed us to serve over 8,400 students in the Alamance Burlington school system, with an additional 389 students participating in CTE Career and College Promise courses offered at both the Alamance Community College and Graham High School sites. For the 23-24 school year, over 99% of our CTE concentrators graduated as part of a 4-year cohort. And our students earned an impressive 3,842 industry-recognized credentials just during the first semester alone. And again, with 67.08% of our students attaining those credentials. Some additional highlights include our Exploring Careers, which is our new middle school course, which is offered to 8th grade students at all traditional middle schools, and next year will be expanded into the 7th grades as well. In addition, 2 weeks ago, we offered our senior job fair, where we were able to connect over 150 students with 38 local employers who were immediately seeking part-time or full-time work. And through our partnership with Apprentice Alamance, 11 ABSS students were offered pre-apprenticeships with 5 of our local businesses. As you can see, our career and technical education programs continue to thrive, thanks to the collective efforts of our educators, students, board members, and partners. Through our comprehensive needs assessment and local application, we have demonstrated our continued commitment to innovation, access, and student success. Thank you for supporting our CTE program and ensuring compliance with all local, state, and federal guidelines. Your commitment is vital in providing our students with the resources, opportunities, and guidance they need to thrive in their educational and career pursuits. Together, we can continue to empower our students to excel academically, develop valuable skills, and become contributing members of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. Very impressive. Thank you for sharing those numbers.
We're
A
excited.
lot to be proud of. Board members, questions for Ms. Drummond?
Just a quick question. Our CTEC facility, what's the capacity in our current enrollment there?
So each of those courses really depends on the actual number of seats. Some depend on the technology that is in those different courses. Right now, our health science is at full capacity, that program. We do have some limited ability to increase capacity in some of our technology courses, specifically our tech ed courses. But even there, we're almost at full capacity. Yes, sir.
It's a good problem.
It is a good problem to have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any other questions?
No questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I did have a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, first, just to say, thank you for all of the numbers, all of the work that you do with that, Ms. Drummond. I mean, our CTE stuff, our CTEC stuff is just great things. I mean, with my nephew and godson both being students in that, I think my nephew received a certification in the Adobe technology, which he was excited to have because he was able to then help his grandmother with her website and photographs and stuff with that. So that was exciting for him. But a question on is right now, no, we have so many offerings that we do have in there. Is there any more expansion of offerings or any more things that we're looking into as far as more apprenticeships and stuff? Because I think about a place, what is that? The Toyota plant that's right across the county and stuff. And I know I had talked to a couple of gentlemen who work there who had said that they would like to see some of our students learn about some of the things that they offer there also. So I didn't know if there was things that we were looking into as a district or other things advancing more and more stuff to add on to that, because another thing I think some students had talked to me about was music production and engineering, being like engineers and stuff in the music industry and learning about like how producers work on some of that stuff too. So I didn't know if anything was coming about I'm pretty sure there's more things coming, but just if there was anything you could state about any more that's happening.
Absolutely. So we are part of a partnership with our Apprentice Alamance Consortium, and this year they did rebrand and are always looking for additional partners so that we can offer increased internships and apprenticeships. We are currently working with the Alamance Chatham Builders Association because they're interested in developing an apprenticeship program through Apprenticeship NC. So those are definitely opportunities that we continue to look at and continue to explore. We are offering Adobe video production this year as part of the Adobe Suite, or this next year as part of the Adobe Suite, and we will continue to expand that Adobe production process and that Adobe Suite. When we look at expansion, we really look at a couple things. One of the biggest things is speaking with our advisory members and understanding what the needs are within our community, because that really drives a lot of the programs that we offer, because we want to make sure that we are offering those programs that will allow our students work in our local community. So we know that we have some opportunities with where we are located with supply chain management and logistics. That is not currently an offering that we have here locally, and that's also not something that our community college has. So there are some discussions as to whether or not that's an offering that we need to look at in the future, because we know that we could provide an educated workforce that would stay local. So that's one of the biggest drivers. And then, is it going to be a high-wage, high-demand job?
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. Appreciate it.
Ms. Harvey?
I just want to say thank you from a parent whose child is a part of so much in CTE. It opens up so many doors for our students, the abilities that they will have when they leave high school. So thank you for all that you're doing, and anyone else involved in this as well. It is absolutely amazing to see the things that they can do and that they're looking forward to doing.
Well, it is absolutely our pleasure to serve, and anything we can do, just let us know.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond.
Thank you.
At this time, I will welcome Dr. Christy Davis, our Chief Student Services Officer, to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Dr. Fleming, and board members. I present to you today a teacher pathway program that is new for the Exceptional Children's Department. But this pathway program is designed to address staffing needs in the Department of Exceptional Children. We initiated conversations with university instructors, UI, back in February as a potential opportunity to address ongoing staffing shortages that we're having in the EC department, specifically in our adapted curriculum classrooms for both teachers and teacher assistants. So I've actually decided to shift the order of the presentation. I'm going to skip to this slide, which is should be the third one. Listed here are all the objectives that UI will provide if we partner with them. However, I think it's important for you guys to understand how this program really works. UI has an 18-member recruitment team that will source, recruit, and verify qualified talent who have relative experience. Once candidates are vetted, they will work with ABSS to place each candidate into positions based on content, grade level, and individual school needs. So we will have the jurisdiction to place these individuals in various schools, and also based on the principal support of that candidate. During the initial year, UI provides on-site observations, feedback, and professional development that aligns with North Carolina standards, compliance, and learning strategies for all candidates. At the completion of the 25-26 school year, so after that initial year, the UI employees will convert to district employees, if we so choose, for the start of the 26-27 school year. So the first year, they are UI employees. The second year, they would become our employees. They would convert. Another key aspect that I want to highlight is during year one, UI assists candidates with enrolling in state-approved EPPs, so educator preparation programs, or helps them begin their EPP requirements. They monitor the completion of their program, and they will assist them with enrolling and taking praxis exams, so the licensure requirements. So now let's take a look at the price. So as you can see here, this proposal is based on 12 adapted curriculum teachers. We actually right now, I think we have 14 posted vacancies. So this would address 12, because that's what we had at the time that this proposal was put together, and 10 EC teacher assistants for both our adapted and our general curriculum, because we actually have two types of EC teacher assistants in EC. It's general curriculum and adapted. So we kind of went for both, so 10. This was for the number of vacancies that we had back in April. This price for both teacher and teacher assistants includes a Monday through Friday schedule, working 7.5 hours daily for 180 school days. With a variance in the hourly rate between teachers and teacher assistants, this is what it would cost us, or the EC department. For teachers, it would be $1,495,800, and for teacher assistants, it would be $1,038,750. And we are only billed for the services that are rendered. So, yeah.
What is the funding source for those funds? Is it EC?
It'd be EC funds.
Okay. And once they're converted over, like after that first year, is the salaries that we would offer comparable to,
Yes, ma'am.
to where these numbers are? Okay.
And essentially, the salary that they're getting, that they would get the first year, would not be as comparable, because this program is also paying for their to go through the actual EPP program as well. So they're paying for that as well. So it's definitely a deal for them that first year with getting the payroll for UI, but also going through a program that's being paid for.
Okay. Other questions from board members?
Dr. Davis, so with this, I know it says convert UI instructors to ABSS upon completion of the school year.
If they meet the licensure requirements.
Okay, so
Yes.
that was going to be the next part of it. And so thank you for that. And then I know our EC special education area has been hard on filling those positions, and just like other general ed positions, it's hard to get those teachers. But with this, with the university instructors, is there any other districts or zones that have used them, and has we got any feedback on their
So we
experience
have,
with that?
we did ask that question, and Manassas City Schools in Virginia has used them, which is a very large school district in Virginia. Believe Charlotte Meck is beginning the conversations to use them. They have not committed to them using them yet. Clover Park in Washington, which is on the western side, and then of course Arizona. So not many local. Again, this is a very novice idea, but it's something that we have not tried, and we recognize that it is a need.
Oh, no, I mean, I can totally understand and respect the fact of trying something, because we can't just sit back and think the normal ways of trying to recruit and keep or whatever is going to continue to work. So trying to figure out other ways and other means makes a lot of sense. It was something else. I'll have to come back.
I think one thing that's important for me is when they vet these candidates, or when they do their net to reach others, is they're looking for people with relative experience. So you're looking for people that may have a degree in psychology, but they do not have a teaching degree. So you may have people that have a regional behavior technician. So people who may have had some experience working with students with disabilities, because we do know that's a unique field that you really need to know what you're going into to be able to work with that population who have those significant cognitive impairments.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. We'll come back if you remember. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're coming back, Mr. Rogers.
Okay, so it did come back to me though. When you started talking about the other degrees and things that they might have, I know you said there's not anybody really locally. Charlotte Meck is having possible initial discussions and stuff. From anything that you were able to gain, or if you can possibly provide it later, do they have any idea on any of the folks who was hired in these areas, on how long did they stay in these roles?
We've asked that question. I haven't got concrete data on that yet. We are wondering if we can even begin, because this is just a proposal, about maybe we can do a letter of commitment that they will work for us for so many years. We haven't really started those conversations yet, but we have noted that is something we want to see if we can explore that. And HR has been a part of these conversations as well because we know that they're going to be instrumental with this partnership.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Davis, and thank you for putting in the whole fact of that y'all are having a conversation about a possible letter of commitment or something around that too, because I just don't want to, we have a person in there within that year, and especially because of that population of students, change it's hard and it can totally throw it off. I mean, we heard some parents at our last board meeting talking about some of the changes that are just happening, and I have friends that works in this area, which they're out of our county, so I've been trying to get them to come on over. But I just know that change piece, and if we having turnover after turnover, it could end up being also an issue. So thank you.
Absolutely. And this is an investment for us. So, of course, we want to make sure that they're staying with us for years to come.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We will move into your next agenda topic.
So next, I'm sharing a service agreement with Public Consultant Group, PCG, which is a agency that we have partnered with for years. PCG is a statewide tracking system that we utilize in both the EC and the Student Services Department. For the student services side of things, we utilize EdPlan for the 504 modules, which allow us to manage and develop 504 documents and reports. This portion of the contract is a little over $17,000. However, the EC portion is a little more complex. For EC, this contract covers multiple areas for reporting and the reimbursement for the EC department. One is fee for services, the next is Medicaid cost reporting, and the last is Medicaid administrative MAC services. And if you have questions about specific one of those, I can definitely explain those to you. But all of the EC are percentage-based on billing, therefore we do not have an exact amount. However, last year we spent close to $400,000. And this is the first year we're actually merging the contract. Typically, we have one for 504 and one for EC, but since it's the same company, we've asked them to kind of put it under one and just have two different scopes of work.
Questions for Dr. Davis? Okay, hearing none, we will move to gifts.
Okay, and I have 3 gifts. So James Hapton Holt has donated $2,414.40 to Highland Elementary to cover their school lunch debt. LabCorp has donated cubicle panels, hardware, and office furniture to the Alamance Burlington School System, valued at $2,500. And then Western Alamance High School Athletic Booster Club has raised $90,000 through corporate and individual donations. Funds will be used to build bathrooms at the school to serve the stadium and baseball field at the middle school to serve the softball field. This gift will be split equally between both the high school and the middle school sites. So for 3 gifts is a total of $94,914.40.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Questions or comments?
Just a comment. Thanks to the community for doing this. It's very appreciated.
Yeah, I'll just echo Mr. Wagner. Dan and I and Dr. Fleming attended a celebration at Western High School that their booster club put on to kind of, recognize the generosity of the community out there. Just, it's impressive commitment from the community and the families at Western. So, and then we'll vote on those, of course, at the evening meeting. All right. Thank you, Dr. Davis. At this time, I will welcome Mr. Greg Hook, our Chief Operations Director, to the podium.
Madam Chair, Dr. Fleming, members of the board, today I'm presenting a voting item to you. This is a roofing contract, and time is of the essence, so I brought it to the work session. This is the roofing contract for Bar Roofing and Maintenance to do the re-roofing of Western Alamance High School. The value of the contract is $2,984,215.
Thank you, Mr. Hook. Questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Hook. And at this time, I welcome our District Athletic Director, Mr. Todd Davis, to the podium for an athletics update.
Hey, thank y'all for having me. So a little bit of updates for our athletics this school year. Pretty exciting, a lot of excitement. Before we get into it, kind of want to highlight our core values as an athletic department. Academic achievement, athletic growth, social development, and community engagement. So those are kind of our main 4 priorities. If they don't fall in one of those 4, we kind of send them to y'all and let y'all take care of it. So, no, I'm just joking. So first, we'll kind of talk about our participation and the strength in numbers. So this year is the first year that our middle school seasons have aligned with the high schools. Not a popular decision, but we have seen some benefits from it. So our high school participation increased by about 3.5%, while our middle school increased by 14.43%. Middle schools also fielded 7% more teams this year as opposed to last year. So seeing some improvement with the season change, and hopefully we can continue that into next year too. Classroom champions, and the reason we do what we do. So first off, a varsity team with 5 or more participants earns a scholar team or scholar athlete recognition by attaining a 3.1 unweighted GPA for the participating semester. So for the fall and winter seasons this year, we had 52 scholar teams. That is over half of our eligible varsity teams for the fall and winter seasons. Individual varsity academic all-conference, the students must obtain or maintain at least a 3.0 weighted GPA for that season. Nearly 60% of participating ABSS varsity student athletes receive this recognition during the fall and winter seasons. So a total of 892 student athletes were academic all-conference. And then for the individual scholar student athletes, they must maintain a 3.5 weighted GPA for the participating semester. So almost half of our varsity student athletes receive scholar student athlete recognition. So 710 of them between the fall and winter seasons. So, and then to the fields and courts. So this is also the first year that we started middle school playoffs and district championships. For the fall, Hall Fields was our boys cross country, Western Alamance was girls cross country, and Turntine won football and boys soccer. For our high schools, Graham High School had the first women's golf team in school history this past fall, which is amazing. We had 140 all-conference winners, 18 conference players of the year, 6 conference championships, 14 playoff victories, 4 conference coaches of the year, and 1 state champion in Western Alamance men's soccer. For the winter, with our boys basketball, we had Turntine. For girls basketball at middle school, Hall Fields won that. And the wrestling team was Southern Alamance for our middle schools. In high schools, we had 109 all-conference winners, 5 conference player of the years, 5 conference coaches of the years, 12 playoff victories. We had 3 team state champions with Cummings women's indoor track, Western Alamance women's basketball, Southeast Alamance women's basketball, and 2 individual state champions in Madison Upton in swimming for Southern Alamance. She was a 2-time state champion, then the 200 medley and the 100 butterfly. And then Michaela Bentley was the diver from Western Alamance. And y'all recognized all her, and that was great. So winter was very women strong, which was awesome. And our spring, which we are kind of in the thick of right now. So middle school, the only championship we've completed to this point is track and field, and Hall Fields won both boys and girls there. Our playoffs with weather this week, we've pushed them to start soccer on Thursday, baseball Friday, and softball on Monday. And then the championships, girls soccer will be Monday, baseball Tuesday, and softball Wednesday next week. Right now, with high school, we've got a lot going on. So men's tennis, Western Alamance faces Carborough tonight in their regional championship. Men's golf, we have 10 students participating in the state championship right now. They teed off yesterday. They'll finish up today. 2A is playing at Pinehurst and 3A at Gates 4 in Fayetteville. Women's soccer, first round of playoffs began last night. Western Alamance and Eastern Alamance advanced to the second round. Southern Alamance and Williams will play tonight. Southern Alamance at Cape Fear and Williams at Terry Sanford. Lacrosse playoffs begin tonight. Eastern Alamance goes to Jacksonville. Southern and Williams, they got first round byes. Southern will play Northside Friday, and Williams will travel to J.H. Rose for the second round. Baseball and softball is in the third round of playoffs tonight. Southern has Triton at home, and Eastern Alamance travels to Southern Nash in softball. Sorry, Southern has baseball tonight. Track and field, which I accidentally left off the slide, their regionals finished this past Friday. We had some issues with 3A with some timing that went on there, so kind of all over the place. 2A women's, Cummins finished first in the regionals. Southeast finished fourth. Their men's, Southeast finished sixth. And the 2A state championship will be this Saturday at North Carolina A&T. For the 3A women's, Western finished 11th, Southern finished 19th, Williams 21st, and Eastern Alamance 24th. For 3A men's, Western Alamance 6th, Williams 13th, Eastern 16th, Southern 18th, and the 3A state championship will be Friday at North Carolina A&T. So that's pretty much all I got. Again, we're kind of in the thick of it. I do want to say that our coaches go above and beyond all the time. There's a lot of schools, a lot of teams, a lot of coaches that weren't mentioned, but they are working extremely hard day in and day out. Championships are hard to come by, and it doesn't discredit anything that they're doing on a daily basis. So all of our student athletes and coaches and athletic directors do an outstanding job.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and your entire team, and the coaches. And congratulations to the student athletes on behalf of the board. Any questions or comments for Mr. Davis on the athletic presentation?
Just a quick comment or a question first. We've got 7.5% participation rate. What does that compare to counties around us? Do you have any idea?
So we kind of focus on us for growth. So we want to focus on our growth, and how it compares to other counties around us is kind of apples to oranges. Certain demographics are different. So, you know, as long as we're growing and we're progressing, we're happy.
And just a shout out to our coaches, our trainers, our assistant coaches, our volunteers who keep scores. I know it's a job that doesn't pay you well, but you're very well respected in our community. Thank you for what you do with our students. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Harvey.
I just want to say thank you, Todd, for all that you do, and thank you to all of our coaches out there that work very hard to keep our kids active in all that they do. We appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Rogers?
Yep. Of course, echoing everything that everyone said, thank you for all that you're doing, all of our coaches, all of our athletes and parents who keeps up with what all of these kids are doing and stuff. And to see that participation growth is great, because I know that's been a thing from talking with you, Todd, about that you've been wanting to see is getting more and more of our students involved in our athletics and hoping for more of them to get more opportunities to do more things. It's great to hear about that Graham golf team. Actually, earlier today I was talking to somebody about the Graham golf teams and stuff too. And then highlighting that page where you were showing about the classroom champions, the scholar teams, individual academic all-conference and scholar student athletes, because we have to remember that part of them being students first. And, you know, the athletics and everything can take them a long way, but it's always based off of what you can do in that classroom that makes sure that you're not going to be limited on the field. And then just a couple of questions off of things that people have done asked me, I think off of stuff they done seen in other counties. One is about how would we be able to get something like a girls flag football program started here. And a couple of people asked me about that because they seen like state championship stuff happening and things. And I know me and you have talked about that process, but I would like for more folks to hear what that process would be to get that. And then also what might be more ways for us as a school system working with our Parks and Rec on the development of these athletes as they're coming up also too?
Yeah, absolutely. So with women's flag football, the North Carolina Board of Directors, North Carolina High School Athletic Association, in the winter meeting, it's moving pretty close to becoming a sanctioned sport. And once that happens, we may not have a choice. So we've talked about it as a district with all our ADs, and kind of what it comes down to now is when that season will be played. And, you know, not that interfering with other sports is a problem, but we don't want to kind of interfere with one another. So finding the sweet spot for that sport to fit would be kind of the main concern, and where we could put it. We've spoke to Carolina Panthers. They came into one of our AD meetings. They're actually doing grants right now to help you get it off the ground, get your equipment, get the things you need. But again, it just kind of reverts back to where do we put it. So we're hoping if it does become sanctioned, they kind of say this is where it's going, so we know this is where it's going, and we're kind of consistent across the state. As far as Parks and Rec, I meet with them regularly. I talk with several of the directors, and I know the Alamance County has kind of gone to a more unconventional seasons. I know Mr. England and I spoke about it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just figuring out how they transition from that to us, to where we are traditional sports and things like that. So, you know, again, we have shared usage agreements. We play at their place, they play at our place sometimes, so we have a pretty good relationship there. Yes, sir.
Yes, Dr. Parker. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
So I know how long it takes to put together these kinds of updates, and it would be great if it were available on the website. And whenever I tell someone, well, we talked about it at a board meeting, you click here and you click there, and then you scroll down and then you click again. I didn't know if there's a way to have this update more readily available as far as for folks, just for information for athletics at the district level. Okay, thanks.
We can get this on our athletics page. Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, I work with James. I'm not the best with the ABSS website, so I've got some stuff, but getting it up there regularly, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Mr. Engel?
You know, when you look at the successes of our county, it's been phenomenal here in the past year when you think about it athletically. But most importantly, not only athletically, but look at what these kids have done academically. And it's great. And thank you, Todd, for the job you're doing. And again, I'll emphasize what my peers have emphasized. We've got some great coaches. They do great. People don't realize just how much they do in terms of preparation and the coaching. It's just not only most of them, probably 99% of them are teachers also, but they come out of the classroom and then they've got the responsibility of whatever their sport is. So I thank all of them for the job they do.
Well, they're meteorologists to laundromats, so they do everything in between.
And my last thing is, Todd, you clean up pretty good. Again, my friend.
That's how you know y'all are important.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank y'all.
Oh, just a thing to chime in, Chair. And I think I told Mr. Wagner this at our last board meeting. If you want to win championships, you're going to have to come through Alamance County in our sports. So,
at this time, I welcome Mr. Messer, our Chief Financial Officer, to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent. That's a tough act to follow. I go from athletics, fun stuff, to talking about board policies. Before you is the first reading of a change to policy 8325 daily deposits. Back at the beginning of 24-25 school year, the General Assembly passed a dollar threshold that required daily deposits from $250 to $1,500 a school could hold overnight. When reviewing the policy that ABSS has, there was no dollar threshold in there at all, so it was very restrictive, meaning that if a school collected $10, they had to make a trip to the bank to deposit $10. And so when I started looking at our mileage and how much we were paying out, it was a little bit counterproductive in some areas. So I myself, as the CFO of the school district, am not comfortable with $1,500 of school keeping overnight, but I am comfortable with $500 if the board chooses to do that. Really, that's the only change, is inserting the $500, for a school to be able to have overnight. But however, though, we would implement an extra internal control that the school treasurer or the principal email me and get approval to keep those dollars overnight. And they would have that for their records.
Thank you, Mr. Messer. Any questions or comments from board members?
I mean, I think it makes sense to not have to make a trip to the bank, as you said. Is there, so let's say I get a check and it's for some amount. Is it that I can wait until, like, all the checks that I have get to $500 if I were a principal, or kind of where would it trigger? Is it a certain amount of time?
That's correct. If a check was written and it was, receipted during the middle of the school day, things get kind of busy at the schools dealing with, with kids and stuff, they have the option to keep those funds overnight as long as it's less than $500, as long as they email me for approval. And also, if they do have the money on hand, we're subject to have an internal audit to go check that cash on hand just to make sure that, that money in cash is still there.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Anything else? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Messer.
Thank you.
I believe at this time our vice chair has a motion for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to preserve attorney-client privilege, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider confidential personal information protected under North Carolina General Statute 115C-319 and 115C-321.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. We will move into closed session at this time. We are back in open session. At this time, I invite Ms. Anderson, our Chief Human Resources Officer, to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Fleming. I ask that you approve the personnel report as amended in closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is there any other business before the board this afternoon?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.